Welcome back to another episode of the House Husband Diaries. As always, I am your host, Carter C. And today we are continuing with politics. I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why Donald Trump won the 2016 presidential election and why he's going to win the 2020 election. Now, I'm enjoying a lot of the comments. I'm getting a lot of action on the political videos. So obviously, if you lean more left than I do, you're not as happy with my videos. But as always, I try to be fair as possible, as unbiased as possible in putting together these videos. So when I put together these videos, yes, it's my opinion. Yes, it's what I see. It's how I see the world. However, I'm not trying to cover all of the issues, right? It's very specific when what I'm trying to accomplish in each one of these videos. If I get off topic, then, that's fine. Please let me know. But this is why I believe that Trump won, not whether I support Trump or not. This is why I believe he won and why I believe he will win again in 2020 in this coming election in November. Having said that, I'll give you my number one reason why Trump won in 2016. He was inspiring and spirited. Now, half of you are going to say Trump is completely full of shit and uninspiring. Excuse my language. I get it. But that's how the other half of Americans felt about Barack Obama. And I've already told you that I don't think he's that good. Barack Obama, I don't think he's that good of a public speaker. I think he's really boring. He's really over-practiced. He's reading. I'm not impressed. It doesn't come across as genuine. For Trump, on the other hand, I'm not impressed by all of the adjectives and the bludgeoning of things. I don't watch Trump. So the people that comment and people that watch my videos and go, oh, this guy's a Trump homer. I'm not. I don't watch the news much anymore, hardly at all. I don't really watch. I check the news online just to see headlines, and I'll go to Fox News, I'll go to CNN. I used to go to the BBC, but that got to be too liberal, so it was almost just another CNN. And then I'll go to reason.com, which is like an independent, or not independent, what is it? Libertarian, I guess is what it is, a website, just to kind of see what they're saying and what their news usually is different from the big CNN and Fox. So I try to get just kind of the topics of the day or the week, and then I move on with my life. So I don't really watch all that Trump has to say. I don't have Twitter, so I don't read all of the tweets and follow the political crap on social media. I'm just not that into it from a drama perspective. So Trump inspired people, but it obviously was the other half of Americans that weren't inspired by Obama, by President Obama. So for those of you who were inspired by Obama, and you're down talking to Trump supporters or trying to say, hey, Trump's just a babbling buffoon or what have you. Basically, that's what we thought of Barack Obama, and so it's just flip flop. So I definitely think that Barack Obama was more engaging than, say, John McCain. Although I do think Mitt Romney was on par. I mean, he was a little more of a statesman, elder guy. I don't think he was bad at debates or in public. But Obama was definitely cool and collected. And Trump is just the opposite as far as taking his time. I think he's gotten better from what I've heard, but I mean, maybe, just micro. But he's just always talking, oh, this is the biggest, is the best, yada, yada, yada. And I could do without that. But that's my personal opinion. But just despite that, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to like the guy. I'm not going to vote for the guy. The same thing with Obama, just because I think he was fake doesn't mean I'm not going to vote for him. There are other reasons. And I'll do a video on why, on how I choose to vote for candidates because I think it's important. I don't know why people vote for candidates. And then I'll also do another video on what am I going to do on the president's job description, because I think it's really interesting that you've got Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren and Michael Bloomberg, Tom Steyer, President Trump. Then you've got Cruz and Rubio and all these people. Beto was running for president. What does it mean to, what do you have to have in your past experiences to be qualified to be president? So the first point, to get back to it, is basically what you had was 8 years of the liberal party, the Democrats, the left-leaning folks were inspired by this idea of hope and change. And Barack Obama came out of nowhere, really out of nowhere. He wasn't necessarily qualified, but he inspired, half of Americans that voted, or a little over half of the Americans that voted. And he was just much more inspiring than Hillary Clinton, which is why he won the nomination over Hillary in, 2008, I guess. And he rode that wave for 8 years of a presidency by being inspiring to, half the American people with this idea of hope and change. Fast forward 8 years or 4 years, rewind 4 years to 2016, and what you have is the reverse, right? Is Donald Trump is now, there's no inspiring candidate on either the left or the right. So the Democrats and the Republicans failed miserably to groom an inspiring candidate. The Democrats went back to Hillary Clinton. The extremely far left Bernie Sanders should have actually, in my opinion, I've said in previous videos, he should have won. The Clinton campaign and the DNC conspired against Sanders. He should have won the Democratic nomination, and I believe he would have beaten Trump, and he probably would have beaten Trump if he had won. Although there might have been an even stronger reaction from some conservatives that may not have cared about Hillary. I don't really know. You just have no idea. However, the Republicans weren't putting forth any. They weren't putting forth any really inspiring candidates. And I can tell you that in the primaries, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. So for anybody that thinks I was like, oh, I've been to Donald Trump, and oh, you're just, you're a homer. Like I said earlier, like he was not my first choice in the Republican convention or what have you in the primaries. But Hillary is such a bad candidate and such a bad person. There's just no way. And we'll get on the morals in another video. So I also don't claim that Trump is somehow, like the moral standard for all of America. But anybody that makes that argument obviously hasn't paid any attention to the Clintons, because they're not that moral either. And there's a lot of smoking guns there. So let's just, like, the moral thing needs to be thrown out the window, right? Like, we're no longer a moral people. If we're voting, our options, right, for voting for president are not moral people. You have to have some kind of an ego, and you've had to have stepped on at least one person's throat to get to president, right? I mean, that's just how it is. So to bring in morality is almost sort of, it's just like, it's only losers bring morality up, right? People on the right were bringing up morality for Obama, or whether he was, born in America or whatever. And that was just kind of like, you lost and now you're complaining. And then Trump wins, and now, the Democrats are talking about morality and, oh, I thought you were the moral people. And it's just sort of like, it's a loser's argument. And, we'll get to that on the resume part of what is the president's job description and how do you become president video, because I think it's a really interesting topic to discuss. So back to the first point, right, which is Trump was inspiring. And after 8 years of having John McCain get whooped in debates and having Mitt Romney, get beat up on, the more conservative half of America was looking for somebody who was going to bring the fight to the Democrats in a debate, not lay down and take it, or, just say, hey, like, I'm going to stand up for the middle class. I'm going to stand up for jobs. I'm going to stand up for America because I'm proud to be American. And for so long, the liberals and the left-leaning people in America, the public perception and what makes the news is a beat down on white people, especially white men. It's a beat down on the patriarchy and all of these made-up terms that are just silly. Because I guarantee you right now, I'm making videos on YouTube as a 39-year-old white guy with a master's degree, and I can tell you right now that the economy is not in as good a shape as Barack Obama said it, nor as good a shape as Donald Trump saying it is. Because there is not a high-paying job out there for somebody with a master's degree. I can tell you that. They're just not out there for the picking. And so you look at what is inspiring. And Trump said he was going to fight for the middle class. He was going to fight for America and fight to bring jobs back to America. Now, whether he's done that or not is up for debate. People that are right-leaning, most of the people that voted for Donald Trump are going to say he's done that, he's kept his promises. People that voted for Hillary Clinton or another candidate who are more left-leaning are going to say, obviously, that no, Trump hasn't done anything, he's a liar, and it's just there's no connection, there's no conversation there, because facts are really hard to come by in the government, right? How many jobs were created this month, right? They all put up a number. Obama, Trump, Bush, Clinton, everybody puts up numbers, and then the Department of Labor goes back and changes those numbers. It's all a game. And that's another video that we'll do soon about how really Republicans and Democrats behind the scenes are one and the same. It's a political structure, a power structure that doesn't lend itself to the average person getting involved or starting another party or anything that is going to disrupt the balance of power or the greed and the stranglehold of power that the Republicans and the Democrats have together. So really, my point number 2 is that Trump came in as an outsider, quote unquote outsider. He was not and is not a career politician. So in that sense, he is an outsider. And he was promising, he gave the hope to half of the country who's been watching their jobs in manufacturing leave to go to Mexico or to China or to India. And he brought hope that he would fight for those jobs to bring them back. Now, is that possible for a president to bring jobs back like that? Maybe, maybe not. That's a whole nother conversation about economics, and we'll do that probably later in February or March, because it's very interesting of when we vote for a president who says something, does a president even have the power and the ability to follow through on some of the campaign promises that they make? And I would argue that a lot of times they don't. And we'll get into that with a deeper look at the economics of globalization, the economics of America, of a country of 330 million people, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot there, and that's not the point of this video. But Trump offered that hope, so he was inspiring to half of America, saying, I'm going to fight for you, I'm going to bring your jobs back, whether they're at the same wage rate or not, who knows? He was saying yes. And that was something that really neither side, they said right when it happened in 2016 that Hillary just kind of blew off the, what do they call it, the Rust Belt, Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Pennsylvania, that kind of area that, that's where all the cars and the steel industries and stuff, and the unions, they're just not really being supported by the Democratic Party. And that's where, Obama and his supporters want to claim that they inherited a terrible economy from George Bush and they made it better, and anything that Trump's done was just on the coattails of Obama. And I mean, that's just all the politics talking. Everybody's going to claim that their economy was better and that the policies that they enacted are what is making, the economy better in 4 years from now, because 4 years from now, it takes a long time for policies to work their way through. And then, of course, if the economy's bad under their watch, it's because the policies 4 years ago from the preceding president were terrible and they're trying to right it. And that's a story for every politician, right? And that's the problem, is that career politicians, Obamas, Bushes, Clintons, they're not going, we have serious problems in America. And this is the point of this, is that Career politicians, by definition, will not face these issues because issues like Social Security, healthcare costs, our national debt are not winning topics to discuss. They're not. If you cut Social Security or you make younger people pay more or you cut benefits to older people who've been paying in, if you try to fix a system that's broken, you're gonna get axed. If you're a first-term president, you go in and you fix Social Security. You put the policies in place to balance our budget, which means working through Social Security, working through healthcare. You are going to hurt so many people in the pockets. If you lower taxes and lower spending across the board from the government spending, it will be, one, I don't know if it's possible to lower taxes and then lower all that spending. I think it is. We'll go through that. That may be a dry one. It's funny to watch the number of views on videos and less people care about some of these topics, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of people just because of why Trump won that are going to watch this video, whether it's out of hatred or support. Who knows? Let me know in the comments. I'm sure you will. But a lot of these things are interesting, and you don't find in the debates, you don't find candidates really going through the nuts and bolts because it's not sexy, it's not headline grabbing, but it's something that we need to seriously look at as Americans. What are we going to do with our national debt? What are we going to do with healthcare and with Social Security payouts? We have to do something. But any career politician is going to go in and talk a good game, but then they're not going to do anything about it because they will lose. They will not get voted in again. And that goes right down to your congressmen and women and your senators. Period. There is no incentive for a career politician to go to bat against and try to fix some of these large national issues because it's gonna hurt. People in the baby boom generation have milked this country for all it's worth. They didn't have to fight in World War II. They didn't give up what their parents gave up. They didn't live through the Great Depression. And they have lived through the greatest economic boom known to man in the history of the world. They have profited. They have all kinds of money in bank accounts, offshore companies that make tons of money. Apple and whoever else have money stashed in Ireland and it's not being taxed. They're not paying their fair share. I know that sounds very liberal coming from a more conservative person, but it's also a very, in my opinion, unbiased look at, hey, we've got some serious issues, and those billions and trillions of dollars are really what's going to help America as a country tax, because it's our money that bought those products, so that might as well get taxed from the corporate standpoint. They shouldn't be allowed to house it overseas and not pay tax on it when we're upside down in Social Security, our health care is a mess, and we have a crazy national debt. I mean, that's just common sense. Now, nobody's going to let that happen because those companies are going to pay people, the senators and the congressmen and women and the president, vice president. There's going to be offshore accounts involved, and there's going to be behind the scenes stuff. So that those laws never make it into practice because they don't want that for whatever reason. So all of these big CEOs and that are real public in their discussion of, well, we're liberal and we vote for, we want, all these free things. Well, why didn't your company bring its money back into America and get taxed and pay taxes? Billionaires. Why do you have $1 billion? Why don't you write a $900 million check? You can keep $100 million. Why don't you write a $900 million check to the U.S. government? Just because you want to help out, because we need more tax on the rich. People can give money anytime they want to the U.S. government. They don't have to be taxed on it. If they really think that things are not equal, have at it. Write us a check. all you Hollywood stars, Oscars just came up, Brad Pitt, whoever else, wants to tell me how hard your life is and how much you love, poor people and equality. Why don't you sell your $30 million home, and why don't you, instead of having $100 million or $200 million in the bank, why don't you write a 90% check to the federal government right now and let them divvy it up to the poor in America? I mean, put your money where your mouth is, So I think a lot of America, especially the more conservative and right-leaning and middle of the road America, is tired of hearing the liberal left, who has all this money, talk about equality. And so Trump comes along and he says, hey, I'm going to fight for the middle class. I'm going to fight for you guys because it's not your problem and you can't really do anything about it. And that was inspiring. That's what goes back to point number one. So Trump says, I'm going to fight for the people in the middle class that haven't been fought for 20 years. They've been taken advantage of by both Republicans and Democrats, mostly Democrats, but Republicans have also ignored them. And that's something I'll get to in more detail at another one. But the third reason, and my final reason, because I want to wrap this video up, is the Democrats' nomination. The Democratic nomination was Hillary Clinton, right? Was and is completely uninspiring. She's a terrible public speaker. She's robotic. She's part of the political establishment. But Bernie Sanders had way more going for him in the 2016 caucuses, way more. He was way more energetic. His fans were, and voters were much more energetic and behind him. And then, I'm not sure if the non-leftists in the middle of the road came out in support of Trump so much as against Hillary. And they just didn't want Hillary to be president. And maybe the same number of people would have come out, against a socialist becoming president of the United States. I don't really know. We'll see. Maybe Bernie will beat out old Pete and Elizabeth Warren, and maybe Hillary won't jump back in, like I said in a previous video, and maybe we'll get to see Trump versus Sanders this year. But the last thing I'll say about Hillary, because I know some people are getting all butthurt over me down in Hillary, did you ever see the Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis and Hillary Clinton? She's so terrible. She's so terrible. And anybody wants to say that she was acting, she wasn't acting. She was ill. She was so, Bill Clinton was out there on the late night shows and stuff, like playing a saxophone, and he's chill and he's cool. Hillary's not that way. She's just not. She doesn't roll with punches. She was such a bad candidate that, she was the John McCain of 2008 of the Republican Party, but just for the Democrats, because John McCain was the political establishment. He had come through the ranks, and it was his turn, and Obama just came out of nowhere and was more inspiring and just, whooped John McCain. And then you flip it 8 years later, and it's, Hillary Clinton's turn, just like it was John McCain's turn, and here comes Trump, and then, works Hillary Clinton over. So it was just a redo of 8 years prior, and it's silly to see how crazy the left side of American politics has gone with trying to get Trump out. And if the Republicans had tried any of this against Obama and all this stuff, it would just been, all of these just terrible headlines that are just made for drama. And so anyway, that's why I think Trump won in 2016, and that's why I think he's going to win again. I just don't think there's a really inspiring candidate. I think Bernie had his chance, and he had his chance in 2016, 4 years ago, and he got screwed over by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton and the Clintons. And I just think he's too old. I think he lost his luster, and we'll just see what happens. Elizabeth Warren doesn't have a chance. Pete Buttigieg, he's got a chance. It seems that there's a number of people that are behind him, and I know that the Democrats will get out in force behind their candidate, so that could be interesting. But right now, it looks like it's going to be Pete and Sanders, and then maybe Hillary Clinton. I'm still calling the dark horse. She's coming back in, And maybe we'll have a redux 2020 will look like 2016. So hey, that's my top 3 reasons why Trump won in 2016 and why he'll win again in 2020. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next episode.